Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Drew Butler. He is at Fromm Jake. Head on over to puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Jake, week 2's in the books. It's already flying by. It was a wild weekend in college football for a number of different reasons. We will certainly get into all of those things, news and notes, headlines, 3 and out, inside the 5, like we always do right here on Punt and Pass. But you were back in Athens this past weekend. You went to the Georgia-Samford game. How was it? A little nostalgic, I'm guessing.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. Which was great. The weather held off.
Yeah.
No rain. I thought we were going to go in and get, just absolutely soaked, but it was awesome, man. Great atmosphere. It was really fun getting back, seeing all the Georgia fans, seeing the guys get out there and play. It was really neat, really, really cool, and it was awesome.
That's sweet. I'm going to ask you a few more questions about that. Who you saw, where you sat, what the game was like, your thoughts on the defending national champions in their home opener. But before we get to that, I got to tell you that this episode of Punt and Pass is presented by our great partners at Solomon Brothers Jewelers. That's right. At Solomon Brothers on Instagram and Twitter, SolomonBrothers.com, family owned and operated since 1982. That's over 35 years. And why does that matter? Because Solomon Brothers has the largest diamond and jewelry inventory in the Southeast. If you go there to one of their 2 amazing locations, one in Alpharetta just past the Avalon, the other in Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place, all you have to do is mention the Punt and Pass podcast or just mention Drew or Jake. You could get 10% off your jewelry purchase. They had the lowest prices on the highest quality jewelry and diamonds, guaranteed. The biggest selection, the best quality, the lowest prices. And I'm telling you guys or gals, if you go to one of the 2 locations, the in-store experience is completely unmatched. It is the best. We had so many people, listeners, audience, Punt and Pass loyalists check out Solomon Brothers last year, especially around the holiday season. And I know that you all will do it again. So head on over to Solomon Brothers at Solomon Brothers on Twitter and Instagram. Tell them Drew and Jake sent you. I got to head on over there here in the next couple weeks. Jake, I believe you will be coming with me. SolomonBrothers.com. Yeah, so you were there. Saw you up with athletic director Josh Brooks at the game. The human highlight reel, Dominique Wilkins was there. It seemed like an awesome atmosphere, as you said. In Atlanta, where we are, or in Athens, North Georgia, it was expected to be a washout this weekend weather-wise, but it really held up the entire time.
Oh yeah, no, that was a huge blessing. Big thank you out to Josh for letting us go up and hang out with him up there in the box. Really awesome experience. Everybody up there was great, and got to see some good food, got to meet some great people, and got to watch the dogs play. Man, they'll get better than that.
How long did you stay? Did you stay the entire game? Did you leave late third quarter? What was your?
So I was pretty intent, that kind of game. I watched the first half. I was locked in the entire game, everything going on. Halftime, get up, kind of mingle around. And then, we were kind of about getting ready to leave, just about like everybody else. And then all of a sudden, we look behind us on the TV and Texas A&M and App State are playing.
Man.
And we're like, we can't go anywhere. So we stayed, until the very end. The game's already over, but we're still watching the game. So yeah, so we were like super late getting out, and had to watch the end of that game.
Yeah, wild finishes. The Sun Belt week 2 winners in a big time way. We'll get to that for sure. The reason I ask is because Georgia and Samford, before the fourth quarter started, mutually agreed to make it 12 minutes. So they shortened the quarter by 3 minutes. I don't know if there was a running clock or not. Jake, I didn't even know this was allowed. Were you aware that this was allowed? Was it known in the stadium? I know you said you guys were up and mingling and watching another game, but did you have any idea that was going on the field?
Yeah, I think because Coach Smart and Coach Hatcher are so familiar with each other, such great terms, like, hey, I'm pretty sure they have some points deal where if it's over, this, hey, let's just go ahead and knock it out and put 12 minutes on the clock and, let's everybody move on about their way, about their business. But which is, I think good, kind of helps everybody. You don't have to worry about injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey,
I thought it was good.
Live to see the other day.
I thought it was good too. I saw it on social media because I was flipping around the other games, like you just said. And people were like, I don't know if this is weather related, if it is out of control because it was 33-0 at that point. Maybe it's a 30-point benchmark and the two coaches kind of link up and say, hey, let's just get this thing done. You guys can get on the road, no injuries, beat traffic. So that was interesting. But I think Georgia and Sanford and Hatcher and Coach Smart have that great relationship. They were able to take care of business. And what we'll get to here in just a little bit, paying teams to come play you, a lesser opponent, an FCS opponent, whatever you want to call it, sometimes does not always work out as the home team has intentions for. So we'll touch on that in just a little bit. But I also asked you, how is it getting into the stadium? Because Learfield's ticketing system, Pacquiao, was down nationwide. I got an email from the GeorgiaDogs.com. I was looking on Twitter. Other fan bases were having troubles also. So Learfield, the MMR rights behemoth in college sports, they run all the official websites. They help in the development office. And they, of course, have technology for mobile ticketing. Pacquiao and their mobile ticketing company was down Saturday when people were trying to get into games, and it affected Georgia fans as well. So I think the great Sean Chappis told you, download your tickets on Wednesday, get them on your phone. Don't try this right before you walk into the stadium, because people who did that, they got kind of screwed.
Yeah. So thankfully for the great Sean Chappis, I was able to have my tickets in hand and not have to worry one bit. However, it could have been a big ordeal. So we did get to talk to Josh Brooks about this, like, hey, this all was going down. What did it look like behind the scenes for you while this was going on? He's like, hey, we were playing Sanford. The weather was, maybe an issue today. If anything happened, we were just going to let everybody in.
So, that's good to know. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Now I would not count on that. I would not count on that
against Tennessee in November.
Yeah. I would not count on that. So, but he definitely had the dogs back and the fans and everything. So everything was going to be all right.
Josh Brooks, what a nice guy. What a great guy. And Sean Chappis, of course, taking care of everyone. Yeah, what a weekend. College football, let's get right to it. Before we get to that, though, thanks to everybody for continuing to listen to Punt and Pass. I know we had some technical issues with Apple Podcasts. A couple of other podcasts had troubles as well. Dog Nation Daily, Brandon Adams, he reached out to me. They were having some issues, but I believe we have it fixed now. So if you listen and subscribed on Apple Podcasts, this one will be out Monday morning. And then Thursday, of course, we'll talk to you again. But thank you for your patience. As always, we're on YouTube. Go subscribe and watch us on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We are everywhere that you can get your podcasts. And we'll be back on Apple regularly as scheduled. All right, let's go 3 and out quickly. First down, Scott Frost, Nebraska, fired. This is just an absolutely crazy story, Jake. But they lost to Georgia Southern. Clay Helton, the former coach at Southern Cal, now in Statesboro, Georgia Southern. Southern goes into Lincoln, beats Nebraska, an all-time historical college football powerhouse, 45-42. Nebraska's off to a 1-2 start. Get this, and then I need your reaction.
Talk to me.
Nebraska is 5-22. That is an 18.5% winning percentage in one-score games since Scott Frost was hired. No other FBS team has more than 16 one-score losses in that span. Last season, Nebraska was 3-9. 7 of those losses were one-score games. Scott Frost's tenure at Nebraska, 16-31. This was a test. This was the quarterback of a national champion Nebraska team coming home, the favorite son, and it has been a catastrophe, Jake. He got fired yesterday.
Gosh, I mean, that's tough, obviously, because, he played there, had a lot of success there. He wants to do so well, but that record right there just speaks for itself. 5-22 in one-score games. I hate to say this. I hate to add insult to injury, but that is coaching. I mean, it really is. I mean, that comes down to week-to-week preparation, and you see it come out in those close games of what you work on all week, of what you let slide throughout the week or what you really hone in and technique and what you put emphasis in, and it comes out. So that's tough, and the proof's in the pudding. And hate it. There was no defense played in that game whatsoever.
Unbelievable.
I mean, the numbers offensively coming out were just insane. I mean, Nebraska had a ton of success on offense, as did Georgia Southern. So, man, wow, what a game.
Yeah, you put up 42 points on the board at home. You're expecting to win that football game, especially against an FCS opponent
100%.
like Georgia Southern. But they obviously put 45 up on the board Scott Frost, after the game, said, we had no answer. That's the number one thing you don't want to say as a coach. And I'm so glad you brought it up, Jake. That is execution. That is coaching. Situational football, how you react in game, getting off the field in third down, not turning the football over. That is coaching. Those one-score game losses, and so drastically in one direction of losing those one-score games, there's one person to blame. And unfortunately, it's the head coach. Yep. So Scott Frost getting canned after week 3, it's just a tough look for Nebraska. College football is better when Nebraska is good. Looking back, and I think I brought this up on a couple of podcasts ago, they got rid of Bo Pelini. I think Mike Riley was maybe after that. I forget. I think it was Bo Pelini, Mike Riley. You can look it up as far as Nebraska head coaches. But Nebraska was winning 9-10 games a year. It just wasn't good enough. They wanted to go to the next level. Yep. It was too hard for them to turn down the shiny new object, which was Scott Frost, who took a winless UCF team and made them 13-0 co-national champions, as they call themselves, in Orlando. They had to bring him home. They had to do that. And it has been an utter disaster. Once again, related to Georgia, right? Coach Rick, a lot of 10-win seasons, a lot of success, couple of SEC championship appearances, couple of BCS or highly profile bowl game appearances, couldn't really take it over the other edge. South Carolina vacancy opens up. It gets known that Kirby could be on the way to South Carolina. Athletic director at the time, Greg McGarity, makes a tough decision. Cans Coach Rick after a 10-win season, 15 years into his Georgia tenure. They go and get Kirby Smart to come home to his alma mater and coach Georgia. And that was what Nebraska was looking for out of Scott Frost. So,
yeah,
be thankful.
Absolutely. You can't say all that without, saying this. Hey, just don't take it for granted. Be thankful for what you got, because it definitely could have gone in a crazy, complete opposite direction.
And now Georgia, because we're talking about Georgia, that's where you and I played, is set up for success for a very long time. I mean, a very, very long time. So it takes somebody special. Nebraska thought that somebody was Scott Frost, and it has not worked out. Here's the most wild part about this firing, though, and the timing.
Oh, yeah. You got to talk about this. Go ahead.
Scott Frost buyout, $15 million. So see you later, Coach Frost. Appreciate your efforts. $15 million check will be awaiting you. Much like how Coach O said a couple weeks ago, hey, $17.1 million, what door and what time? Like, I'm out of here. Thank you very much. But, however, if Nebraska's athletic department would have waited until October 1st, look, it is September the 12th. That is 2.5 weeks from now. The buyout would have dropped to $7.5 million. So if you think about it, put your tinfoil cap on, Jake. Scott Frost made himself $7.5 million by losing to Georgia Southern. What world are we living in?
I mean, do you think there's a 7.5? Do you think there's a chance? Do you think there's a chance?
I hate to go that crazy, but it makes you think.
Because they know what's going around the campus and what conversations are being had behind closed doors. I mean, he might not, it may not have been very good situational football, but there's situational awareness of what's going on off the field behind closed doors. So
a lot of situational awareness. You're so right. I mean, it's absolutely crazy what has gone down. And I was with my brother-in-law last night, and we were crunching the numbers. Nebraska's athletic department could have saved $62,500 per working hour, assuming a 40-hour work week for Coach Frost between now and October 1st if they had waited to fire him. They could have saved $62,500 per working hour, assuming a 40-hour work week, if they would have just waited until October 1st to fire him. But Trev Alberts, the athletic director at Nebraska, said, we owe this to our players. We needed to make a change. We're committed to making Nebraska great once again. So, Coach Frost, tough scene, but you're $15 million richer for your failed efforts at
Nebraska. Now he has the opportunity. He's going to probably lay low for the rest of the year and then go double dip somewhere else. So,
yeah, people are saying that probably expect him to be on Coach Saban's staff next year, the Coach Saban rehabilitation program, which obviously worked out for Steve Sarkisian. We'll get to that in just a second.
Out.
It's crazy. All right, second down, the Sun Belt rolls. App State, who should have beaten North Carolina in week 1, goes in to College Station and upsets the number 6 ranked Texas A&M Aggies. An SEC team goes down. Georgia Southern, which we just talked about, from Statesboro. Clay Helton, the head coach, goes into Lincoln, knocks off Nebraska. Scott Frost fired. And then Marshall, the Fighting Thunder and Herd, head into South Bend and knock off the number 8 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame 0-2 on the season. Marcus Freeman still has not won as head coach of Notre Dame. What are your thoughts here, Jake? This is wild times.
Yeah, so unbelievably crazy. To me, my take here is this is so awesome to see in college football in the age of NIL.
Yes.
Texas A&M, they're collective, they're buying players, this and that. And in the age of NIL, for teams to still go in, get paid, 1.2, 1.5 to go play these big teams and come away with a win, I think is awesome. That's what college football is about.
I totally agree. In the NIL era, people think the rich will get richer. I mean, certainly to an extent they will, but it's very, very exciting to see these teams, these players understand the possibilities, the opportunities, and what's to come if they are to find some consistent success, knock off some big time programs like an A&M in College Station, like a Notre Dame in South Bend, like a Nebraska in Lincoln. It's unbelievable. App State, the scenes of the students running around crazy in Boone was totally wild. Jimbo Fisher's going to have a lot of questions to answer this upcoming week. Notre Dame, we talked about it a week and a half ago. Why were they ranked number 5? We're really not quite sure as to why they got that type of love with a new head coach and a new quarterback heading into the 2022 season, but certainly they should not have been ranked a top 10 team, and then Nebraska just falling straight on their face, giving up 45 points. It's wild. This shows you the parity that maybe is to come in college football. It also shows you just how elite those top 3 or 4 teams
really
are in comparison to everybody else. The Alabamas, we'll get to that. Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, if you want to throw them in there, maybe even a Michigan. But makes me think about this, Jake, and tell me, moving on to a 12-team playoff, later on in the season, could you see a team like a Marshall or like an App State get a chance to make a run?
App State. I mean, let's go. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what App State's schedule looks like from here on out, but say they lose one more game and have an unbelievable 10-2 season where they should have beat North Carolina in the first game. I mean,
they should have.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great argument for them to be one of the top 12 teams in there. So this is cool to see. I hope it's here to stay, with the rich getting richer and NIL, and it's only going to get worse. I hope it's here to stay because this is what makes college football fun.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Exciting games. I mean, what it does is it tells people you have to focus week in and week out. It also shows you like the mindset, the execution, the preparation that goes into like a Georgia shutting out Samford. Now, granted, Samford's not at the level quite of a Southern historically, or App State, who's like going to be a world beater now. And then Marshall, of course, like Marshall's a good program. They go to bowl games and make it happen.
For me, from being in it, what makes teams like Alabama and Georgia so successful is the level of focus and detail week in and week out. It doesn't matter who you're playing. I promise you, if you go walk into that building, you have no idea who they're playing. You cannot tell week to week who they're playing because the level of focus and the level of detail is there every single week. And for me, when I played, I always felt more pressure when we played a team like Samford, when we played teams like that, because the level to perform, you're supposed to do just so unbelievably well compared to those teams. And, I always knew I had to take it up a notch when I played teams like that because I always wanted to perform my best. So, I mean, that's crazy. Texas A&M and Notre Dame, I didn't think offensively had any answer. It looked kind of gross, and maybe they get it fixed, maybe they don't. We'll have to see.
That's really good perspective. It's like when you go against the lesser than an FCS, a quote unquote cupcake team, perfection is the expectation on offense. Like can't get to 3rd and long, can't turn the ball over, don't need any negative plays, certainly don't need an incompletion. So it puts that pressure on the offense. And then if you guys slow start, the other side, the team gets super fired up. That momentum starts swinging. Your fans might start booing you. It's just a really interesting predicament heading into those matchups. That's really good perspective, Jake.
Yeah, you just know the stat line's supposed to be 19 of 20 for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. You're supposed to be 9 of 10 on third down. And, you're supposed to, in the red zone, you're supposed to be 100% scoring touchdowns. And you're supposed to be out by halftime. So, if you didn't do that, you failed. So, just exactly. So Nirvana fallacy, you're always being compared to perfection, not to the next best thing.
Hey man, not everybody can be Stetson Bennett,
Hey, absolutely.
No, that's great perspective. I think that's perfect. I haven't really thought about it that way, but makes all the sense in the world. So shout out to the teams that have taken care of business against those opponents so far this season. And if you have not played them yet, watch out because they are hungry. All right, let's get to third down. We got a new number one in the polls. But before we get to that number one, let me tell you about the number one jewelry store in all of Atlanta. I'm talking about, of course, Solomon Brothers Jewelers, presenting sponsor of this episode of Punt and Pass. Solomon Brothers has the largest diamond and jewelry inventory in the Southeast, and the store is for anyone with any budget. Even better, if you go to Solomon Brothers, 2 locations, one in Alpharetta just past the Avalon, the other in Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place. You can mention Punt and Pass, or Jake or myself, Drew, take 10% off your jewelry purchase. Check them out on social media as well, at Solomon Brothers on Instagram and Twitter. They have unbelievable inventory. They've got the biggest selection, the best quality, and the lowest prices guaranteed. That in-store experience, it's the best. SolomonBrothers.com. Georgia now the new number one team in the nation. Of course, Alabama struggles mightily with Texas. That was a wild game. We're about to touch on that. Ohio State struggled a week ago against Notre Dame, which even looks worse now because Notre Dame got knocked off by Marshall this past weekend. Georgia looks like the clear-cut best team in the country. And Jake, I was in the basement. I watched the South Carolina-Arkansas game. Georgia heading to South Carolina this weekend. South Carolina stinks. They are not a good football team this year. So looks like Georgia is in prime position to maintain their number one ranking after this debut in week 3.
Yeah, it's scary for me as a former player and a Georgia fan now, to say it, but I mean, it is clear. I mean, the gap, I mean, it really is. It's, you kind of just don't want to say it because you don't want anything to go wrong. But I mean, what an unbelievable team Kirby's put together. Great players. I mean, it looks like they're coached well. They're doing the little details right, which is awesome to see from the get-go. And they did what they're supposed to do versus Sanford. They got up. Now they could have had a better conversion rate in the red zone.
Yeah, a lot of field goals.
Yeah, a lot of field goals. We can talk about that. But it looked clean. Defense was dominant. And yeah, I mean, gosh, can't say enough about them. And man, just hope this continues.
No doubt. Also in the AP poll that came out yesterday, Alabama moves back to number 2. Kentucky now up to number 9 after knocking off Florida in the Swamp. Arkansas sitting at 10. Tennessee at 15. Ole Miss at 20. Texas A&M back to 24. So a lot of SEC teams in the top 25 right there, but Georgia number 1. And I'm telling you right now, Spencer Rattler, he needs a humongous improvement heading into week 3 because his first 2 weeks have not been good, Jake. I know you know this kid. We'll get to it here on Thursday's episode, but I know it's Columbia. I know it's noon. I know it's supposed to be hot. Those things probably will not matter that much. So the Dogs sitting atop the polls, and it looks like they'll be there for the foreseeable future. All right, let's recap inside the 5.
Talk to me.
I got on the board this week. I went 2-3 against the spread. Praise be. I'm off the schneid. Jake, you went 3-2, so you're 4-6 on the season.
I know what's going on.
Season,
I know what's up.
Way to go. Number 1, Alabama gets out of Austin. They squeak by 20-19. And Jake, I watched this game. It was unbelievable. This did not look like an Alabama team of years past. The offense was horrible. I can't believe how many how many penalties they had, how inefficient they were. The defense looked lost at times. Did not look like your typical Nick Saban coached Alabama team. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, maybe atmosphere. There's a lot of guys that had to replace and move up, and I mean, maybe it got to them. I don't know. I mean, because that was not the confident, hey, we're just going to just hit you in the mouth and there's nothing you can do about it, Alabama football team. That was not it. So crazy to see when I was watching it. Like you said, it's just penalties. It was just a kind of a gross football game. And, man, Quinn Ewers was
he can spin it, dude.
balling at the beginning of the game. Hopefully he gets healed up soon and gets back out there. I don't know exactly what he has, but man, homeboy was balling out there. And if he stays in that game, I think it's a different outcome.
Yeah, I totally forgot that he got injured in the first quarter. Looked
Yeah.
like a collarbone, maybe a labrum. I mean, that guy, he jumped to throw the ball, throw it away, and the
Yeah.
Alabama linebacker like jumped up and then led
Yeah.
his entire body to the ground. I think he got a penalty for it. But the way that he can just flick it downfield, and it's a very catchable ball. It's kind of like that slow spinner, which makes it really easily catchable, Jake.
I'm glad you mentioned catchable ball. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
just
please.
remember this phrase, and then we'll come back to it later when we talk about a different game. But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm watching him, and, this is his first start against a gigantic opponent, number one team in the country, Alabama. And he looked unfazed, man, fitting the ball in tight spots,
Unfazed.
letting the
Yeah.
receivers run underneath it. He had swagger to him. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
this kid is really, really good. I thought Sark's first 15 play script was
Yes.
damn near perfect. I go,
Yeah.
oh my God. He threw the entire kitchen
He
sink at
was
Alabama.
dialing it
He was
up.
dialed in. And then credit to Texas's defense. Like the fan base was loud. False starts on Alabama's offense. They weren't scared. They did not allow them to establish the run game early, and it was game on from there.
That's what I'm saying. They gave up a big run in the first quarter.
82-yard run.
And I mean, that was it. I mean, that was basically their offensive success. The Alabama offense was scrapping and clawing for everything they got. It did not look like the easy, hey, I'm just going to throw a slant route and he's going to just burst and take it to the house for 80. It wasn't any of that.
No.
So, wow.
What did you think about the Bryce Young safety roughing the passer debacle in the end zone? Now, they called it roughing the passer, of which clearly it wasn't. And then there was another penalty as well. I think maybe an intentional grounding that they had said, which then would have made it a safety. But the refs had no earthly idea what was going on. Flags were everywhere. I think refs have proven to be way too flag happy in the first 2 weeks of the college football season. But the refs need to chill. First off, refs suck. I mean, I've been saying that for years and years. They have got to get it together. There's zero accountability. I won't go down that rabbit hole. But the fact that should have been a safety, because from my eyes, watching all the replays, one, it's crazy that they even considered that to be a roughing the passer. Two, Bryce Young did not look like he was down. But three, he threw the ball and it never made it back to the line of scrimmage, which is what? Intentional grounding usually. Jake, tell me if I'm wrong. And if you're in the end zone, that is a safety. So please explain to me what the hell happened.
Could not agree more. It was like a weird NFL call being called in college, but even in the NFL, everybody would have been like, this ain't this still ain't it, So, man, crazy call. I don't quite understand it. The ball did not cross the line of scrimmage, but because they called it roughing the passer, there was nothing they could do. Like that was a penalty. They couldn't go back and review or change anything. Once that was the call, that was it, and basically got him out of a jam.
Oh, got him out of a jam. Alabama. I mean, look at some of the screenshots, the face masks that weren't called, some of the holding pictures that weren't called. It's par for the course. Texas, welcome to the SEC in a couple of years. It happens every
you're going to get it. You're going to get it.
Go ahead. You have to beat Alabama and the refs, and clearly Texas not quite able to do it. They lose 20-19. I got to shout out Will Reichert, Alabama's kicker. He's a stud. Helps them get out of a big-time jam. Alabama will kind of go back to the drawing board, but I thought they'd roll. And if you've learned anything in the first 3 weeks of Punt and Pass, fade me, because I am not seeing the college board as clearly as I should. Alabama beats Texas 20-19. South Carolina loses to Arkansas 30-44. The Fighting Sam Pittmans are off to a really good start. The SEC West looks pretty ripe for the taking. We'll see what these guys and KJ Jefferson can keep chugging along with, but what I saw here, yes, Arkansas is playing well. Jake, South Carolina, not good. Not a good football team. They're not a good football team. I can't remember a player who has had more expectations put on his shoulders than Spencer Rattler and who has failed drastically to meet those expectations. Jake, this guy was the anointed Heisman favorite and a future number 1 overall draft pick. And what are we getting out of this kid? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really tough to meet these expectations, but big time guy coming out of high school, world's at his fingertips. I don't know. I mean, this is The really tough situation, and man, the pressure to perform is there 100%, and hopefully he can get it right. I think it's just all in his head. We know the physical talent's there.
Yeah.
He's just got to get his mind right, just let loose and go play. And once he does that, I think he'll have a lot of success. But as long as he has mental demons in his head, it's just going to be kind of tough to overcome that.
Mental demons meaning second guessing yourself, not
Yeah,
having
you're
conviction when throwing the ball, seeing
right.
ghosts. What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of all and then some, maybe. You just gotta, he's new to South Carolina, which I mean, he was there last year, right?
No, he transferred in this
Okay, okay.
offseason. Yeah.
He just transferred this year, so it's a new system for him. He's still got to trust that, trust the new guys and receivers and seeing stuff and playing. And sooner or later, he's just got to say, man, we're just gonna forget all that, screw all
Yeah.
that, and I'm gonna go out there and just rip the sucker. And there's nothing you can do. Hey, you might throw a couple picks, but who cares? As
Yep.
long as you can trust what you're doing and let it rip. I mean, you'll have a lot more success than what we're having now.
That'll be a big ask for him this
Yeah.
upcoming weekend when Georgia comes to town. Georgia has allowed 3 points this season, 3 against Oregon and a goose egg against Samford. So we'll talk about that a lot more on Thursday's episode. Tennessee heading up to Pittsburgh, knocks off the Pitt Panthers 34-27 in overtime. Big win for them. I think they were down 10-0 to start. Everybody said Tennessee's going to have to get off to fast starts. Their defense really showed some teeth in that game, which was great for the Vols. They get a big-time victory against a ranked ACC opponent. They're up to number 15 in the polls. They're going to have a big, big task against Florida next week, week after this week. So we'll see what happens. Tennessee's going to have to answer the bell when I think they travel to Gainesville, but watch out.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great game. Super pumped for Tennessee. I think it's just great for the SEC East.
It's home in Knoxville. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I want the Georgia Tennessee game to be a big game. I want that. So I think that's great for everybody, great for atmosphere, and I think it's great for the Georgia guys as well to play in a big time atmosphere and get used to that kind of going in, get these young guys some experience and moving forward. So excited for Tennessee. I think they're doing great things and throwing the football around a little bit.
Absolutely. They are throwing the football around a little bit. A lot of swagger, a lot of confidence, and it takes those games, those overtime games on the road against ranked opponents to continue to get that buy-in, keep that momentum going. Tennessee plays Akron this upcoming weekend and then welcomes in Florida, which will be game of the week probably next week. Speaking of Florida, they lost. Heisman Trophy winner Anthony Richardson didn't do that well. Coach of the year of Billy Napier. It's tough. It's tough to go from week 1 to week 2. But that's what it takes. They got up to an awesome start in the swamp at night against Kentucky. Kentucky flipped the script in the second half, and they beat Florida 26-16. Anthony Richardson's stat line, 14 of 35, 143 passing yards, and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, no, that's not good at all. Coming back to my catchable ball phrase, watched a little bit of this game, and now homeboy can sling it now.
Yeah.
And we're talking, I bet he could, be flat footed and throw a ball 80 yards. I mean, he can absolutely rip it, but it looks like he got a little uncomfortable early and just started just ripping it and just throwing piss missiles everywhere. And the guys just could not catch it. He was, I saw some things where he was trying to anticipate a little bit, but he was just throwing it at such a hard pace that the guys just couldn't get their head around, couldn't get their hands up. And so, man, not a good game. Maybe he'll get better. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll win the Heisman Trophy at the end of this year, as he's already been crowned. So we'll find out.
The QBR metric on ESPN, is that out of 100? Is that out of 70? What is the QBR metric based out of? The reason I ask is because Anthony Richardson's QBR in the game was 3.8. 3.8. That is not very good. And they needed him to be much better than that to beat Kentucky. You and I talked about it. Kentucky was not scared of Florida. Roman Harper on SEC Network called Kentucky soft, like Florida's going to beat you. I saw all I needed to see against Utah. I was big on Kentucky heading into the season. Now I'm off that. Into the Florida Gators. It's just wild how some of these analysts can flip the script so quickly. But I've got to give Kentucky a ton of credit. Everything was going wrong for them in the first half of that game, and they were down at halftime 16-13 after fighting and clawing in that second quarter. And then they came back and dominated 13-0 in the second half. So shout out to Kentucky. I don't do that often. Shout out to Kentucky.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job. Like you said, they overcame a lot of adversity there in the second half in a crazy environment. So, kudos to them, and we'll see kind of moving forward if that, that kind of pushes them forward, helps them out, and maybe we might have a big Georgia Kentucky game coming up.
Maybe they're going to have to keep it
Maybe.
going. That's the tough part about the SEC. QBR functions on a 0 to 100 scale.
Yeah.
An average NFL quarterback, typically around 50 QBR. Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks, approximately 75. Anthony Richardson last weekend, 3.8. That ain't going to get it done, Chief.
No.
That is not going to get it done. USC took care of business 41-28 against Stanford. I thought that game would be close. I believe Stanford scored 14 fourth quarter points, so I thought maybe the backdoor cover was in play, but it was 41-14, way out of hand. USC looks good, man. So watch out for them out in the West.
Yeah, we'll see. Caleb Williams playing well. They moved up big time in the polls as well. I think they're in the top 10 now.
Yeah, I believe they are. I can pull that up for you right now. They are now number 7.
7
in the AP poll. Yep.
Maybe we might have another Notre Dame situation, with USC at 7. I think they're probably in the mid-teens somewhere, but
Notre Dame is 0-2 and still ranked at number 8.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was like, just kidding. No way.
No way.
But it
would be believable though.
It's no way, but also it's it's believable because it also wouldn't be the most surprising thing that's happened to me.
Not at all. We got some good games coming up in week 3. As we mentioned earlier, number 1, Georgia on the road, noon against South Carolina. We'll see what Nebraska does. They welcome in number 6, Oklahoma, new head coach there. A big one out west, number 12, BYU, taking on number 25, Oregon. SEC on CBS is back. Penn State travels to Auburn at 3:30 on Saturday. We will touch on all of those games coming up on Thursday's episode. Good stuff, Jake. Anything on the way out, brother?
Man, Penn State going to Auburn, huh?
Yeah,
next Saturday.
Big game. Yeah, 3:30.
Oh dang! I might
have to go to that game.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I might have to go to that
Atlanta.
one.
There you go.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad at all. So, wow, I think it's another great way to college football. Let's go.
Another great weekend of college football. There's nothing better. What could make it better though is some new jewelry for you or yourself, and of course, you would have to go to Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Solomon Brothers Jewelers, presenting sponsor of Punt and Pass, the largest diamond and jewelry inventory in the Southeast. If you go to Solomon Brothers, they've got 2 locations, one in Alpharetta, just past the Avalon, the other in Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place. Mention Punt and Pass or just mention myself or Jake, and you can get 10% off your jewelry purchase. Check them out on social media at Solomon Brothers on Instagram and Twitter, SolomonBrothers.com. Solomon Brothers carries the biggest selection, the best quality, the lowest prices, and an in-store experience that you will not want to miss. Shout out to Solomon Brothers. I am looking forward to getting back with Jaron and Maya and the crew here in a couple of weeks. I got to make Jackie happy. Look, man, we watch all this football on the weekends. You got to take care of the misses.
Absolutely.
Wins and losses, dude. You got to keep them around however you can. And Solomon Brothers makes that very, very easy. So shout out to Solomon Brothers. Follow us on social media as well at Punt and Pass on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He is at From Jake, puntandpass.com. Rate, review, subscribe on YouTube. Check out puntandpass.com. We got some new merch coming, Jake. I will get that to you. Have a great weekend, my man, and we will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.
Let's do it.